The first worker I want to train is Serenia. For your position, you will be mainly working with the chop saw and the laser engraver. On your time with the chop saw and the laser engraver, you will be responsible for cross-cutting board 1 at 28 inches, then cross-cutting 7 4-inch pieces from that board. You will do this twice, and these parts will be labeled as parts A and D. In addition, you will cross-cut 3 4-inch pieces from the remaining board 1. This will become part E. Next, you will cross-cut a 16-inch section from board 2 and cross-cut it into 4 4-inch pieces. This will also become part E. Next, you will also be responsible for cross-cutting a 12-inch section from board 2 and then cutting out 9 3.5 by 4-inch sections. This will be part F. In addition, you will also be responsible for creating part K, which involves cutting out an 8-inch section and cutting out 6 4 times 3-inch pieces. Next, you will be creating part I and starting to create part G. For part I, you will need to cross-cut board 2 at 31.5 inches, then from that, cut 7 4.5 by 7-inch sections after ripping with the table saw is done. Then to create part G, you will need to cross-cut a 31.5 by 4-inch piece, which was left over from the last board at 27 inches. You will need to cross-cut this to 27 inches. Then you will need to cross-cut 3 9x4 pieces from this. In addition, you will need to finish G with board 3. At the chop saw, you will need to cross-cut board 3 at 8 inches. Then you will need to cross-cut this section at 4 inches. Both of these 4-inch pieces will be the remaining part G's. The remaining wood from board 3 will be used as backup. Next, you will need to create part B and laser engrave it. First, you need to cross-cut the 4th board at 20 inches, 40 inches, and 60 inches, so 20 inch increments. Then after the ripping is done by me, Andrew, you'll need to take the 6 new boards to the laser engraver. Here you will use the pattern on Corel Draw to cut out the pattern in part B on all 6 boards. Finally, you will be responsible for laser engraving part L with the last names of other buyers. With the rectangle cut out from the laser engraver from part B, place it back in the laser engraver and engrave the last names of the buyers on it for added personalizability. The second worker I want to train is Delaney. After Serenia laser engraves, your position will be taking over the chop saw for the rest of the project and cutting the rest of the wood for assembly in addition to cutting the bulletin board. During the time of using the chop saw, you will be responsible of cross-cutting board 5 at 120 inches, then cross-cutting 6 20-inch pieces from this. This will be used to create part C, the bottom panel. In addition, you will need to cross-cut at 20 inches, 40 inches, and 60 inches. This will create a 20 by 11 inch segment. You will do this with boards 6, 7, 8, and 9, so you'll need to repeat this process 4 times. This will create parts H and J, which will be the front and back panels of the final design. Finally, you will need to be responsible for cutting the bulletin board. You'll need to cross-cut the bulletin board, which is currently 12 by 12, at 4 inches, 8 inches, and 12 inches. It will be ripped to 8 inches as well, so each segment will be a 4 by 8 bulletin board. For my training for my position, I will be using the table saw and the hand drill throughout the entire production run. I will be responsible for ripping the whole board 1 from 11.25 inches to 11 inches. This process is crucial as most of the parts require 11 inches instead of 11.25 inch as it was before. This process will need to be used with boards 1, 2, 6, 7, and 8. Therefore, I will need to do this process 5 times. I will also be required to rip board 3 from 11.25 inch to 10 inches, as some parts also require 10-inch pieces. I will also need to do this for boards 4 and board 5. Therefore, I will need to do this 3 times. In addition, I will also need to rip between parts I and G. This involves ripping a 31.5 inch board in 2 sections, a 4-inch board, and a 7-inch board. I will also need to rip board 3 from 10 inches to 9 inches, which will also be turned into part G. Also, I will need to rip 5 inches high on the 20-inch segments from board 4. This will create part B of the design. I will need to do this 3 times. Next, I will need to use the hand drill to screw in the hooks into parts A and C. First, I will drill the 3 screws from the hooks onto the front side of part C. Each screw or hook will be 6 2/3 away from each other. The same will be done on the front side of part A. However, I will only be using 3 2/3 between each screw this time. Finally, I will need to rip the bulletin board at 8 inches vertically going across horizontally. This will cut the bulletin board into a 4x8 inch board. Evan's primary position throughout production run that requires training will be to run the router. The router will open up slots for added support. The first route Evan will need to make is to route parts A and D. The route will be 1/2 inch wide, 1/4 inch deep, 3 inches from the top, and 7.5 inches from the bottom. In addition, the only other route that Evan will need to make will be on board 5. The route needs to be 1/2 inch wide, 1/4 inch deep, similar to the first route, and 7 inches horizontally. So you don't go all the way through horizontally, you just go 7 inches. It will be 5 inches from the bottom and 5 inches from the top. Although Abby has a position in the production run, she does not need to be trained on anything. This is due to her working as a safety inspector and helping with assembly, and since there is no machines involved, she does not need to be trained with any machines.